Let's assume that our users are okay working with a multidimensional array. Our first step would be to move this data into a separate file so that they don't have to see any of the logic or have the potential of messing it up accidentally. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to jump to the resource pack directory, and what we're going to do is take this 8th step, which is called data as an array, and we're going to copy it. Let's go ahead and paste it in our scripts folder. Right now we should have just a test.php file and a Drupal folder, and let's go ahead and paste it in and rename it data.php. Next, let's go back to our resource pack directory and open up the 9th step, which is called separating logic.step. Go ahead and copy this code, and we'll paste it over our test.php file and save it. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the browser and see this in action. I'm going to refresh our test.php file. So this should look familiar. During our for each loop example, where we output the array data as a table, it looked exactly like this. The difference here is that our logic isn't inside our file anymore. So if we jump back to the editor, we'll see that our logic begins here and continues down. At the very top, we're using an include statement. Now include has the same structure as a function here, but it's not a function. What we're doing is passing the name of the file that we want to include in this file. So if we jump back to our script directory and we take a look at this, we see our data.php file. It's at the same hierarchical level as our test.php file. And so when we reference the include here in our editor, we just need to point to data.php and it will include it. Now let's go ahead and look at data.php. I'm going to jump back to the script directory and open up data.php. And you see here, it's just our multi-dimensional array that includes information about our people. So we could, for example, give access to this file to our client or our user to manipulate the data within. And that way they don't have to touch or see the logic at all. Now let's go ahead and explore this include statement a little bit here, because what's really important and where you'll run into the most problems is pointing to the right place where the file is that you want to include. Now notice that when it includes this file, it runs it as PHP. That's because as part of this include, it also runs the PHP code that's within this file, as long as we have PHP tags around it. So if we look at data.php again, you'll see that we have our opening PHP tag and our closing one, and we're simply defining an array here. So if you imagine that we're PHP, we start up at the top here, and then we hit this include, and basically we begin continuing the process of running code over in this file. So we jump over to data.php, and then we go through this line by line, we generate our people array, and then we come to the end, so we jump back to the file that did the including, and continue down the line. This means that if we have some variables up here that we define, we'd be able to use them in data.php. And any variables that are defined in data.php, we can use from here on out. So notice that even though we don't define the people variable at any point here, we can still use it in our for each loop down here. Now again, the path that we use to point to the file is very important. So here are a few examples that we can look at. In this case, we're using an absolute path. Let's go ahead and comment out this first include here and uncomment out this next one and see what happens. We're going to save this and jump back to the browser and refresh. So notice that we're getting a ton of warnings, but it's important to start at the top because that will usually give us a clue as to what's going on further down this warning line. So it says warning, include once data.php, failed to OpenStream no such file or directory in, and then it tells us the original file that's doing the include. The second warning here tells us exactly where it's looking for that include. It says the include path is this applications Acquia Drupal common pair user lib PHP. So by adding that slash at the beginning, we're using an absolute path, and that will trigger PHP to look for the file in a specific location where it's not. Our other errors here are caused because our include didn't work properly. Okay, let's go ahead and jump back to the editor. Notice that this time we're using include once instead of include. The difference between include and include once is that if we had multiple instances of this include data.php, it would include it every single time. So if we copied this and pasted it in the next line, we would see that data.php file included twice. Sometimes that's desirable. We actually want to be able to do that. But other times we know that the code we just need to bring in once. and so we can use include once. And then if we use additional include once statements, it won't re-include it if it's already been included. It will keep track of what's been added and what hasn't. When in doubt, it's usually a good idea to use include once. Okay, let's take a look at another example. I'm going to recomment out that line and uncomment out the next one and save it. In this example, we're using a ... And what this indicates is that we're going to look up one level in the hierarchy of files. So let's go ahead and jump back to the scripts directory. So this would look up one level. So notice that right now we're looking at data.php. It's inside of the Drupal-7.12 folder inside of the Learn PHP folder. So by using the ... we're taking our current folder, which is this one, and we're looking up one more and seeing if the data.php file is there. It's not, so it's going to throw an error just like our previous example. I'm going to jump back to the editor. This next example here, we'll go ahead and keep commented out, but it will look up 3 levels. So this is just to demonstrate that you can use this ... as many times as you want in order to work up the hierarchy of files.